Great. Well, thank you all. This was a great conversation. So I believe we are back on the live stream. And what we'll do now, for those who might be watching us online, we had a breakout discussion to talk about the various opportunities that we presented, including catalyst sites, open space and street improvements, and programmatic opportunities. So what we'll do now is that each of the tables picked a facilitator, although this table might get Chris also to share back. But we'll start with this table here. Sarah, actually, if you could come up here to the podium, introduce yourself, your connection to downtown, and then just summarize a little bit about what we talked about.
Hello, I'm Sarah Hall, and I am the director of the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts. And I was trying not to be a dominating personality, but everyone just kind of pointed at me and said, "You have a nice voice." So here I am. And so we began by talking about the catalyst sites, and I'm not going to remember the names of all of them, but Catalyst Site 1 I know is the former Harold Mail building, which people were really interested in seeing that activated in some way. And the other Catalyst sites were Site 2 and Site 6 that our group were talking about. We did end up having a conversation a little bit about how do we get not just the stadium traffic, which is of course near the Harold Mail building, not just to get them to, go downtown and eat dinner, but the need for probably a hotel or some place for them to stay so that if they're staying downtown, they are more likely to do activities downtown. We also talked a bit about the need for more residential spaces downtown, and walkability was a big part of our conversation, and the people in adjacent neighborhoods feeling safe walking from their bordering neighborhoods into downtown. And we talked a little bit about maybe doing, there's a national night out, and I know Hagerstown participates in many areas, but maybe we do a walkout night where all the people who live adjacent to downtown walk downtown for the evening and enjoy a walk together. We also thought, in spite of the fact that it looks like there are more restaurants in the core area than there were at the prior study, the comparison data, there aren't that many that are open for dinner or open late or that feel like special places to eat. And so if you're looking for something to do in the evening, you tend to be looking for something a little more special. So the need for more specialty restaurants also as part of how to keep people here, how to bring people here. And we thought a lot about walkers' needs and clean sidewalks, having stations for dog waste in various locations, having enough trash receptacles so that when people are walking, the sidewalks are clean and passable. Public square, sort of should a public square feel like was something we talked about. And the lack of, we were all surprised at the lack of green space downtown when you look at the overall map. So sort of trying to create more green space, whether that's in the sort of public square area or elsewhere. But we did talk about how public squares, sort of in our minds, a nostalgic thought related to them is like it's a place where you kind of slow down and people come together. And so we did talk about ways we might actually want to slow traffic, introducing roundabouts or things. Slowing traffic makes things more safe too, and people are more likely to go visit storefronts and things along streets with slower traffic, easier to park and go in places. So we talked about that. And also the contrast between, Hagerstown is a city and it does feel urban, and some of the issues people have are sort of wrapping around, I think it's kind of the conflict between the historic architecture and the small town character with urban qualities. And so maybe philosophically, we think more about capturing a small town feeling than an urban feeling, and how do we do that? Everybody loves the cultural trail, and we love the idea of the loop downtown. Any green spaces created, maintenance of them and keeping them clean and orderly needs to be considered. And I think I have covered all of our topics at this point. Okay.
All right, well, I'll start with our group, and I know I missed some stuff because I've been kind of circling around the table. So I'll say what I recall we talked about, and then, I can repeat what anyone said to make sure it's on the record. So from the site, catalytic site standpoint, some of the ideas were, is it possible to maybe do like a food truck kind of thing in some of the vacant spaces? And then the question was, well, what about existing restaurants? That might not go over very well. So, but it was a good idea, very interesting. I've seen it done in other places. We also were very interested in the Herald Mail site. I think there's a lot of potential there, questioning what that could be. The former hospital site, of course, we just kind of talked about some of the history to that, the recent history and the zoning issue. So I think that still remains a question mark to our group. What could that be? There's a lot of potential for that really large site, and hoping that something, catalytic occurs there. Did I miss anything else about the sites? I don't think so. We kind of then blended into the open space and the circulation map. One really good point that comes to the top of my head was making sure that the cultural trail connects to the transit, particularly the transit center. I think we may need to extend that to make sure that that connection is made, understanding that that's an important connection. There were a couple comments on the gateways, where the dual highway really kind of splits and enters downtown. We did not mark that as a gateway point, but we added a sticky note to the map to suggest that that's a good gateway location. The speeds along Washington and Franklin being, a bit uncomfortable for pedestrians. The issue is that's a state road. We're certain limitations there. We've got a lot more, I think, leeway on Potomac being a city street. What else with the open space and circulation am I missing? Yes.
We wanted to emphasize that the gateways should be made in collaboration with the community.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, a really good comment about gateway and signage, maybe incorporating local history, which I think is a great idea as a theme, since there's a lot of great local history, but the cohesive signage went over very well with our group. Any others in that realm? Yep. Oh, there's that's great. Oh,
There were also suggestions to expand the loop as much as we can, particularly to specific cultural neighborhoods.
okay.
The Jonathan Street corridor, and connecting it to fairgrounds, which would connect the two largest parks of the city, Fairground and City Park. Right through.
Great. I was definitely on this side of the table when you mentioned that. Yeah.
We feel expanded, improved, so it's actually a reliable method of transportation, another option.
Yeah,
To avoid car use for the roads.
great. Did I miss anything else with that? And then from the programmatic. Oh, yeah. So Jim had suggested maybe, just getting to understand maybe some additional funding sources and creative funding sources. We talked about, like things such as a business improvement district, where they, within a certain district, funds are raised for, cleaning and safety ambassadors, that kind of thing. That might be a little further down the road. We're not sure the market's quite there to support that, but are there other creative ways to increase the financing of certain projects downtown? We located certain specific areas of concern, and the Antietam Street corridor, for example, Locust Street, some of those little pockets. Trying to understand if there's any way we can come up with some strategic interventions in those specific areas. Did I miss anything on that? Yes.
Thank you. Oh, it wasn't on? Sorry. We wanted to include some more natural history on the cultural trail.
Nice.
To sort of pinpoint the unique location we are in this huge Great Valley at the beginning of the Appalachian Mountains. And that could be something as simple as native plants, informational signage, that would open up the opportunity for all sorts of educational programming, either through the city or neighborhood groups or volunteers, whatever it is. But we've got a lot of things to offer here, and we just think natural history should be part of that.
Anything else from our group? All right, thank you. That was great. So is there any final thoughts, questions, concerns before we wrap up? We got a lot of great information. Everybody feeling optimistic about downtown? I think it's a great place. I think, having worked on the prior plan and just being in touch with the city, we loved every time you reached out and you're like, we did this. We were just thrilled that Hagerstown's done so much since the last plan. And it's really exciting to come up with the next 10-year agenda. And it's going to look different than the last 10 years based on how just the market's evolved and how time has changed, but I think, there's a lot of exciting opportunities for the city. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. This has been great. Appreciate your feedback. Stay tuned. There's more to come.